Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. This show is absolutely red hot today. Spread the gospel and tell your friends and family about the I Love CVille Show Monday through Friday, 12:30 to about 2 o'clock right here on the I Love CVille Network. So much we're going to cover on the Tuesday edition of the program. This show presented today by Skooma Boutique Dispensary, the best dispensary in Charlottesville, Skooma Boutique Dispensary on the downtown mall next to Rapture Restaurant. Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Folks, so much we're going to cover on the show that's the most followed, listened to, and watched here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, regardless of platform, legacy, traditional, or digital. Today's show, topics we will discuss: Jim Ryan, President UVA, getting a 3-year contract extension. I will offer some perspective on what Jim Ryan has done positively for this community from a real estate standpoint, development standpoint, living wage standpoint, enrollment standpoint, and hiring standpoint. I will also ask this question: what's still left? What does Jim Ryan still have left to do? That topic in a matter of minutes right here on the program. Blue Ridge Country Store, you heard it first here on the I Love CVille Network, is for sale. A $195,000 asking price for a venerable country store that's been in existence for a generation, 25 years. What is the best use of Blue Ridge Country Store moving forward, and how do you maximize profitability? Stu Rifkin of Rifkin and Associates has the listing. Wilson Richey has purchased Dooner's Restaurant, an institution in Ivy, Virginia. Wilson now owns Cafe Frank, the Whiskey Jar, the Bebedero, Dooner's, Revolutionary Soup, Milkman's Bar, South and Central, and the Wine Guild. 8 brands that are beloved in this community. We will discuss and analyze Wilson Richey's impact and influence on the restaurant scene right here on the I Love CVille Show. Folks, the TomTom Festival, yes, the festival put on by Paul Byer, is planning a Biergarten on the downtown mall, a 2-day affair. We will talk about the Biergarten and the TomTom Festival concept on this program, a concept that yours truly has been championing for a couple of years on this microphone and on this network. Stoli Vodka is rebranding to distance itself from Russia. So many companies distancing themselves from Russia, including governments. Stoli announcing a rebranding. We will give you a snapshot on that. There is a teenager from Crozet heading to Hollywood on American Idol. That story is just scintillating, engaging, and captivating. The All-ACC basketball teams have been announced. We will highlight UVA's inclusions and what could have gone better on the All-ACC hoops teams. And Alex Urpí, guys, in about 20 minutes on this show to talk market volatility, the cost of oil and gas rising quickly. Is this a black swan event? And why would the Fed consider raising rates now when so much volatility and uncertainty around the market globally and domestically? Folks, giddy up and get ready. The I Love CVille Show is red hot right now. 2-shot, Judah Wickower. Let's go to that 2-shot and let's welcome our fabulous director to the program, a gentleman that is adored, beloved, and revered for so many in this community. He's getting that ready as we speak. Give me the thumbs up when that's ready to go. I think we got to talk Jim Ryan to lead, folks. Jim Ryan, the president of the University of Virginia, just got a 3-year contract extension. Jim Ryan, the University of Virginia Board of Visitors unanimously extended Ryan's contract through 2028. They added 3 years to his contract with UVA. He was selected by the board as UVA's 9th president in August 2018. Ryan has made significant progress on a number of initiatives. We'll go to that too in a matter of moments, Judah. Stay tuned. Ryan, a living wage for folks in this university community that work to UVA, $15 an hour minimum under Jim Ryan's watch. Ryan has recruited executive leaders to UVA, including outgoing Provost Liz McGill, Chief Operating Officer J.J. Davis, and Dr. Craig Kent, the CEO of UVA Health and Executive Vice President of Health Affairs. Ryan has also overseen the hiring of 8 school deans and many other leaders in key positions. Ryan has overseen the launch of a range of programs at UVA, including the founding of the School of Data Science, an expansion of the UVA presence in Northern Virginia through UVA Nova, and the Karsh Institute of Democracy. He is also, with his team, advancing a long-term development plan for redevelopment in the Emmett-Ivy corridor. This corridor will be the home of the School of Data Science and the Karsh Institute of Democracy as well, along with a new hotel and conference center. Very soon, as first reported on the I Love CVille Network, you will have a sidewalk from the Boar's Head Resort all the way to University of Virginia grounds. Furthermore, as first explained on the I Love CVille Network, you can count on Ivy Road being the next academic village for the University of Virginia. It's expanding its footprint into Albemarle County and now into the western portion of the jurisdiction. Jim Ryan's influence and impact is dramatic, it's noticeable, and it's significant through living wage, through hiring key people at the institution, executive leadership positions. Jim Ryan, an impact from a development standpoint. Jim Ryan, an impact from an affordable housing standpoint as UVA tries to navigate this land leasing, essentially land trust format in various locations around Charlottesville and Albemarle County, including north of town, including in the Fry Springs JPA corridor. Jim Ryan's impact has been felt even at the grassroots level as the man routinely runs throughout the community with tens, if not hundreds, of students and community members running alongside him. The roll your sleeves up president with the tie almost at half mast and the button, his top button undone, comes across as approachable, likable, kind, and a president of the people. It's an approach, or it's a brand that is very much different than former President John Castine. His brand, and I'm not knocking it in any way, but his brand was certainly a little stuffier, a little formal, a little more by the book, a little less Main Street, and a little more Wall Street. Ryan, his brand of the people in the community. A 3-year contract extension for the most influential person at the university, and you can make a legitimate, strong argument. I was having this conversation with my wife while walking to the UVA baseball game from Mellow Mushroom. I had some delicious pretzels at Mellow Mushroom on Sunday. My wife, my son, and I walked down the UVA corner to Davenport Field to watch Virginia bamboozle, lambast, and bombard Penn State in the crescendo of a 3-game series. I had the conversation with my beautiful better half, who is the most influential and powerful person in the Charlottesville and Central Virginia community. Here are the names that come to mind, in no particular order. Jim Ryan, Corin Capshaw, Hunter Craig, Joffrey Woodruff. Those were the 4 that I rattled off while walking to Davenport from Mellow for a Virginia baseball game with our 3-year-old and my better half. Jim Ryan may not have the deep economic resources or bags of cash of the other 3, but what he does have is the UVA brand and the firepower that comes with it at his fingertips. And speaking of bags of cash, does anyone in the community have more than the University of Virginia Foundation, an endowment that's flirting with $20 billion? President Jim Ryan, a deserved 3-year contract extension at UVA, now under John Hancock through July 31, 2028. Next topic on the I Love CVille Show. And hammer that like button. Give the show a like and a share if you love this content. We work hard for you, and the only thing we ask in return is a like and a share on every topic and every show and every platform you're watching this program upon. The next one is Blue Ridge Country Store. You heard it first on the I Love CVille Network. Stu Rifkin of Rifkin & Associates has the listing. Blue Ridge Country Store, a business that has been in operation for 25 plus years, has hit the for sale market. The asking price is $195,000. The owners, a likable husband and wife tandem, are retiring. The current business is not open at night or over the weekends. More on that in a matter of moments. You have to sign a non-disclosure agreement with Stu Rifkin if you'd like financials and KPIs for Blue Ridge Country Store. Stu often gets a lot of the business listings. So does Quentin Beckham. Those two guys, friends of this network and friends of mine. Now I want to talk about the business and how you could optimize it to drive revenue. Undoubtedly, you can drive revenue at Blue Ridge Country Store should you keep the brand in play and the business alive in its current format by opening at night and or over the weekend. The business Blue Ridge Country Store is Monday through Friday, and it closes before traditional COB hours. It's focused solely on the morning and lunch crowd. It's not open during Fridays after 5. It's not open during peak tourist time, the summer months in the evening hours. It's not open on the weekend to capture the brunch or breakfast or lunch crowd. You purchase the business, Blue Ridge Country Store, and if you want to keep it in its current format, you open at night and or the weekend, and you immediately drive incremental revenue. So many people have said to me, Jerry, the asking price is $195,000. You're buying a business tied to food service. It does not include the real estate. Is $195,000 justified? Frankly speaking, I can't answer that question with confidence and conviction without seeing the P&L, the balance sheet, and some other KPIs like the lease. However, I have a lot of market knowledge, especially downtown, probably more so than anyone in this community when it comes to these 8 blocks. And I can tell you the community and the fan base and the customer base of Blue Ridge Country Store is significant, it's loyal, it's active, and it's repetitive. I can also tell you that there are few breakfast and lunch options on the downtown mall that are $12, $10 and below, and Blue Ridge Country Store is one of them. I can tell you that the landlord is approachable, likable, and reasonable. I can tell you the opportunity is present for nighttime hours and weekend hours that will drive incremental revenue to help with debt service payments. This business has potential and promise. And some may say maybe the best use of that space is not a country store in its current format. Perhaps it's something very different. And you know what? That very well could be the case. You know what I think will crush it downtown? A tasting room or micro tap room from a brewery standpoint. Rockfish Brewery, and Peter, the owner of Rockfish, is opening up a tap room in the old downtown grill space, a building purchased by Wilson Richey. Wilson's going to take a portion of it for the Bebedero, one of his brands, one of the restaurants in his portfolio. He's going to take the Bebedero from an upstairs situation where it's currently at right now, above the whiskey jar, and he's going to put it storefront level at the old downtown grill location. But he's smart. He's hedging his risk by taking half of the space he purchased for Rockfish as a tenant and the other half for the Bebedero as a tenant. That's smart business. I'm going to get to Wilson in a matter of moments here. But I'll tell you what, Blue Ridge Country Store, if someone chooses just to buy the business or pay the price or somewhere close thereof for the lease potential, the potential of the lease, because that's in a lot of ways what you're doing here. You're buying the lease, the opportunity to do business with this lease, and if you choose to keep it Blue Ridge Country Store, then you're buying the brand and the equity and the customer base that comes with it. But if you want to buy the space strictly for the lease and the opportunity that comes with it and put a new concept in there, I think a concept that would undoubtedly crush it is a tap room, a point of sale for a brewery in Nelson County or out of market that wants to go after the rabid craft beer population in this community. Pro Renata comes to mind. Three Notch, if Allen and Ludwig end up selling X Park, and if Three Notch doesn't have a downtown location anymore because Allen and Ludwig sell X Park and that's 17 and a half acres, they could keep a downtown presence from a taproom standpoint as they head to Wild Wolf for its primary headquarters. First to tell you, Three Notch, the owners of Wild Wolf Brewing Company on 150 Fun. A taproom on the mall would crush it. Now let's get to Wilson Richey. Wilson Richey has purchased Dooner's Restaurant, an institution on Ivy Road. Wilson Richey now owns Cafe Frank, the Whiskey Jar, the Bebedero, Dooner's, Revolutionary Soup, Milkman's Bar, South and Central, and the Wine Guild. That's 8 brands beloved by this community. Wilson Richey is the most prolific restaurateur in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and in Central Virginia. The most prolific one. And the man is smart. Not only does he launch brands that we love, Cafe Frank, Revolutionary Soup, Whiskey Jar, Milkman's Bar, South and Central, the Wine Guild, Dooner's, and the Bebedero, he is now purchasing the real estate associated with some of these brands. Cafe Frank, the dude owns the building. Where the Bebedero is going, the dude owns the building. I will ask Wilson Richey, friend of this program, if he has an opportunity to purchase the location that Dooner's is in. My instinct says no, but I don't have that answer with confidence and conviction, so I'm going to ask him directly. You have a restaurateur that is evolving into a real estate magnate. I cannot think of many restaurant owners in this community that also own the real estate their restaurant is housed in. Peter Castiglione and Christian Kelly at Maya Restaurant own the building Maya Restaurant and the apartment that coincides with the restaurant above it. Maybe it's behind it. The Finazzos. Sal's Cafe Italia. I love Jen Finazzo. I love her parents, love her sister, love her brother. They own that building, Sal's Cafe Italia, on the downtown mall. Wilson owns Cafe Frank, and he bought the downtown grill building, the green one, where the Bebedero is going. There are not many. Andy McClure owns Citizen Burger Bar Carytown building, not in Charlottesville, but Carytown Citizen Burger Bar. He owns that building. There's not many restaurant owners who have figured it out of how their restaurants, their passion projects, can create the cash positions to buy commercial real estate. And as someone, yours truly, who owns a good chunk of commercial real estate, the barrier of entry is significant. You're not putting down 5, 10%, 20% to buy commercial real estate. When you're doing these deals, you're putting down 30% or more, sometimes all cash. It ain't easy. Wilson Richey creating jobs and building brands in this community through his parent company, 10 Course Hospitality. The next topic on the show is one that I'm very excited about. The TomTom Festival is planning a Biergarten. You heard me correctly. I've been championing the Biergarten for 2 years on this very network. I do not understand why the Biergarten concept does not exist on the downtown mall. Why City Council doesn't utilize the Biergarten concept to drive incremental revenue for passion projects, capital improvement projects like school reconfiguration, instead of taxing utilizing regressive tax tactics like taxes on rooftops and real estate. Council and local government should create new incremental forms of taxes, the most obvious thing in the world to me. And one of them undoubtedly is revenue associated with the 8 blocks we call the downtown mall, and an open-air container concept that can go from the pavilion to the code building, Joffrey's new Center of Developing Entrepreneurs. That would drive millions of new revenue every year. Millions of dollars of new revenue. Regardless, I'm going to get to the point. A downtown mall block party, TomTom Festival, April 22nd. It's a 2-day block party, 2 days and nights. They bill it as a New Orleans-style festival. I've been saying that for 2 years. A New Orleans-style festival for 2 days and 2 nights. Grab a drink from your favorite local bar and take it out with you onto the bricks of the downtown mall. Judah, 2-shot. What does that sound like to you?
Sounds like a beer garden.
Sounds like a beer garden. The definition of it. City Council, please utilize the April 22nd, April 23rd Downtown Mall Beer Garden that TomTom Festival is doing as a POP, a proof of performance for a more permanent endeavor to drive incremental tax revenue, alleviate the burdens of citizens in this community, and utilize the revenue to fund educational endeavors like reconfiguration. This is called being smart business people. The next topic is one that I'd like to highlight that I found fascinating. Alex Urpí, about 4 minutes away. Stoli vodka. Did you know Stoli vodka, 2-shot J-Dubs? Did you know Stoli vodka was no longer produced in Russia?
Not until today.
Stoli vodka is Ukrainian, and it's rebranding itself to distance itself from Russia in a warmongering dictator who does not understand the concept of playing by the rules and staying with his own country jurisdiction. Stoli Vodka announced that it will rebrand itself. It previously was called, can you say the word Stolichnaya?
Stolichnaya.
Say it again for me.
I think it's pronounced Stolichnaya.
Now it's just going to go Stoli. They're going to redo the labels. Get the hell away from Russia. That's what they're planning on doing.
Smart.
Totally smart. We're in the rebranding business ourselves, in the branding business. We do it for a number of companies and clients. Stoli's production facilities have been based in Latvia since 2000. And last week, the company said it was moving to exclusively use Slovakian grains to ensure 100% non-Russian product. Recently, Russian vodka has been pulled off the shelves of American, Canadian, and United Kingdom liquor stores. Stoli was caught up in the mix, with one liquor store in Michigan telling the Associated Press that he yanked Stoli from shelves and destroyed it in the streets to make a statement, not realizing that the booze was not from Russia. Paid for bottles, pulled them from the shelves, destroyed them in the streets to make a statement, and then realized after destruction that the booze bottles he had paid for with his hard-earned cash weren't even Russian after all.
Do your homework.
Or do your rebranding. But do your homework. Two other topics. American Idol. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to fall in love with a 17-year-old from Crozet. And yes, I use those words very carefully because they can get you in trouble. Falling in love with a 17-year-old. But her name is Kennedy Anderson, and it's Kennedy spelled very uniquely. Kenedi, Anderson. A 17-year-old from Crozet. She is on American Idol, and she won a golden ticket to Hollywood. She played a Lady Gaga cover song called Applause. And she captivated the judges. So much so that, is it Katy Perry? My wife is going to be ashamed. It is Katy Perry, right? It's Katy Perry. She's the judge, right? Katy Perry, Lionel Richey. Who's the other judge? She's really going to be angry with me. I don't watch much American Idol, but she's a huge fan. I'm doing a quick Google search, sweetheart, so you don't yell at me. Katy Perry, Lionel Richey, and Luke Bryan fell in love with this 17-year-old to the point Katy Perry was asking to be her manager, her producer, and her agent. She's 17 and she's from Crozet, and she is one of the most talented artists that I have seen perform American Idol, and I have never seen a response from judges like they did when this 17-year-old played the piano and sang a Lady Gaga cover song. She is beautiful, she is talented, she has the voice of a songbird, she is humble, she's from a small town. She has all the goods of superstardom, and currently Crozet, Virginia is her home. Vanessa Parkhill, the queen of Earlysville, says Kennedy's audition was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, Vanessa Parkhill. Thank you, Scott Aaronworth, the Esquire in Virginia Beach, for saying Luke Bryan. Thank you, Lauren, for saying Luke Bryan. Scott says, please give Siren a shout out. They are opening the Veranda this weekend, and they are having live music. Laura Fonner owns Siren, the old restaurant that was formerly the Shebeen. They are opening the outside veranda and having live music. Interestingly, Laura Fonner was formerly the executive chef at Dooner's restaurant. She was first in line to purchase Dooner's restaurant. Because of the pandemic, the previous owner was unable to retire like he saw fit or wanted, and kept ownership of Dooner's, and that led Laura to go work for Hunter Smith at his hospitality group. Now she is the owner of Siren Restaurant, partnered with Hunter Smith. Destiny and fate work in mysterious ways. Last topic before Alex Urpí. And Alex, I want to talk Ukraine, Russia, the cost of oil and gas rising quickly, Russia's threat to cut a European gas pipeline. Literally yesterday, Russia and its deputy prime minister, Alexander Novak, told the world, get ready for $300 per barrel gas if you keep sanctioning us. So now this war is as much about tanks and missiles and guns and street fighting as it is about global economic sanctions. And unfortunately, the collateral damage of these global economic sanctions are market volatility on Wall Street and Main Street having less money than ever before potentially. The last topic is the All-ACC basketball teams that were released. While I am not surprised, I still am disappointed that Reese Beekman was not named the ACC Men's Defensive Player of the Year. Beekman, a lockdown perimeter defender that has fantastic hands, loves to pickpocket opponents, loves to hit the boards, loves to block shots. Just a great on-ball perimeter defender. Unfortunately, Williams, the big man from Duke, was named the All-ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Jaden Gardner, who I thought a very good chance of making second team, unfortunately, Jaden Gardner made third team, shockingly. The third team also, the honorable mention team also included Kie Clark and Reese Beekman. So Virginia basketball may be a byproduct of an overall record and an ACC record that was not reflective of where the program normally stands. They have Jaden Gardner on the third team, and on the honorable mention team, Kie Clark and Reese Beekman, with Beekman finishing in second for Defensive Player of the Year. One other note that I want to highlight is the most improved player, Caden Shedrick, earned some recognition over there. All right, let's get CEO of Emergent Financial Services from the green room over here to the set of the I Love CVille Show. We are on fire right now, and we have questions already in here for Alex Urpí. Janice Boyce Trevelyan, you're exactly right. She was awarded a platinum ticket. It allows her to skip parts of Hollywood and other trials and tribulations she may face on American Idol. One platinum ticket was given. I believe it was a byproduct of 20 years of American Idol. Kennedy got that platinum ticket. Anderson, the 17-year-old from Crozet, look her up on YouTube or watch American Idol, and you will see an artist with supermodel looks, the voice of a songbird, and the humility of someone that doesn't normally have that kind of talent. Certainly not someone that's a teen. All right, 2-shot and then a 3-shot. Get the 3-shot ready. First, let's start with the 2. Good afternoon, Alex Urpí. You're live on the program.
Good
How are
afternoon,
you?
Joey. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I have so much I want to cover here. Today, I watched President Joe Biden on national television. Mm-hmm. And President Joe Biden on national television told the country that we will ban Russian oil imports. Yesterday, I watched Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said, get ready for potentially $300 per barrel oil, and that he is considering cutting off a European gas pipeline.
The original Nord Stream.
Yeah. So this war is as much about missiles and guns and street fighting as it is about global economic sanctions and threats.
Well, absolutely. I mean, let's face it, we have not, since the end of the Cold War, we really haven't engaged in a war with a nuclear power, right? There has never been, and I think that prohibits a lot of the major Western countries from actually engaging with Russia in a military way. You simply can't, because there's always that issue of nuclear deterrence. So what is left to them to do is to try to hit the Russian economy in different areas. They've obviously already tanked the stock market. They've already tanked the ruble. But let's face it, the number one export that Russia has, which keeps it humming, is oil and gas. That is their number one export, and it's the item that basically, if you were to cut that out, really begins to put pressure. And so we saw the Russians yesterday in response to the UK. Basically yesterday, Europe said we're going to start weaning ourselves off Russian oil. That's an extremely long process. That's not happening anytime soon, because the Europeans did a large chunk of their gas, particularly Germany, from Russia. Then the UK said they're going to stop buying Russian oil. The Russians responded by saying, well, if you're not going to certify Nord Stream 2, which is the newer pipeline that they are constructing, then we'll just cut off supply in Nord Stream 1, which is the currently existing pipeline that pumps Russian oil into Western Europe, which of course would spike gasoline prices, because again, Europe, especially Germany, relies heavily on that. And then today, thing to keep in mind, Russian oil is about 8% of our total, of U.S. total imports. So that's not insignificant.
No, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big number, which means that I think I've already seen $4 gas here, I think, or $3.99. California's sitting at $6 to $7. I think you're probably going to see that continue to go up, which President Joe Biden warned about today. I mean, he basically admitted, be prepared, because this action is going to cause gas prices to go up.
Biden is under significant duress. Biden's presidency has been tumultuous. I think that is fair to say. To say the least. Tumultuous. When it comes to leaving U.S. military infrastructure in foreign countries, when it comes to tampering domestic oil production, and now it's a geopolitical, economic sanction war that is literally on the horizon.
And it's hard not to see the economic, how do I want to put it? It's hard not to see the economic fragility of the U.S. last year.
So vulnerable.
As contributing in some way to the decision that Russia made to do this now.
Okay, follow up on that.
Because our options to respond with already high inflation and an already curtailed U.S. domestic oil supply means that from the Russian perspective, there's only so much the U.S. is willing to do, because the U.S. typically does not want, I mean, the last thing you want to do in a period of 7 to 8% inflation is push up oil prices, because again, as we've discussed, gas underlies a lot of other commodities and a lot of other goods, meaning when the price of oil goes up, the price of producing goods goes up, the price of anything, consider the price of anything plastic related goes up, the price of agricultural commodities goes up, the price of transportation goes up. So when you're already sitting at 7 to 8% inflation, Russia's sitting there and saying, how long can the U.S. afford to continue to push oil prices up by doing exactly what we're doing today? And I think what we're going to see now, my suspicion is a little bit of the game of chicken. In other words, who can't take the pain first? Like, who caves first? Does Russia sit there and say our economy is in such shambles that we can no longer pursue this war in Ukraine, which is obviously taking longer than they thought it would? Or does the U.S. get so much pain at the pump that the U.S. bails first and says, we've got to buy Russian oil again?
Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, get the 3-shot ready to go and lock and load with some perspective for us here on the isosceles triangle of content here. Neil Williamson, $4.25 a gallon gas on US 29 North last night, 7-Eleven and Wawa.
Wow.
$4.25 a gallon gas on US 29 North last night, 7-Eleven and Wawa. Neil Williamson, the king of content, the king of Greene County, the king of Green Hills, and the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Question for Alex. If in November the price of gas is over $4, will Congress change hands? And he's speaking of midterms.
By midterms. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be hard to see a scenario in which it doesn't. Because typically, let's face it, Congress typically switches hands. I mean, the last time I can recall that Congress did not switch hands in a midterm election was, I think, 2002. Was the last time, and someone can correct me, I'm sure one of our viewers can correct me if I'm wrong, that Congress did not switch out of the party of the current sitting president to the other party in a midterm following a presidential election. So already you would expect that, just historically. Combine it with inflation and what would be, I mean, if just consider the pain, economically speaking, if gas sits at $4 from now to November. That's, what's that, 9 months, 8-9 months of $4 plus gas. That would be a very significant economic drain. And I would be stunned if any party managed to survive that in a midterm election. People would just not be happy.
Gwendolyn Gale Cassidy watching the program in Holland. She's got a comment we're going to get to in a matter of moments. The Queen of Holland, Gwendolyn Gale Cassidy. This from Kevin Yancey. This is a good one, a question I have. Why are domestic oil producers operating below 100% production right now?
Right now, so I think that's a good question. It's difficult. It's always challenging with domestic oil producers to figure out what exactly they are looking at. In this case, obviously certain pressures were put to make it more difficult to expand and produce more.
We're talking Biden.
We're talking, yeah, exactly.
We're talking Biden.
Exactly. I mean, we did pursue, for whatever reason, I mean, and people can debate whether green energy is the way to go. I'm not necessarily opposed to it myself, but when you put pressure that you don't want to be U.S. fossil fuel producing, you cannot be surprised when U.S. fossil fuels then produce less. It's a basic fact of life that you're going to see there. And the other thing is obviously we did cut down, I know, on some fracking, which tends to be the cheaper way to get oil in certain areas. That's going to be a significant hit. And so you're seeing a lot of things that go into play here. And I'm not sure, and to be fair, I'm not sure U.S. oil ever operates at 100, like you never quite operate at 100% churning out oil all the time. You don't want to be stuck with oil that you can't store, right? So you have that massive downturn in 2020, oil price drops negative, you try to ramp things back up. Now you're facing a scenario where you have a federal government that says, we really don't want you to be doing this. And then you have all these things that come together, and you sit there and say, you're not surprised that you're vulnerable in this particular area.
This is from Queen of Holland, Gwendolyn Gale Cassidy, watching literally in Holland. $7.59 a gallon. Unleaded plus costing $7.99. In premium unleaded listed at $8.49 a gallon. Gorda is a small community located in Monterey County in the remote area of the Big Sur coast right off Highway 1.
I used to live near Monterey County.
Okay, so are you in California now, Gwendolyn? Where are you watching right now? Are you talking about your family and what they're going through? Let us know. I had to spend the night in my car there once after almost running out of gas, as it is the only gas station for dozens and dozens of miles along that stretch of area. So let us know where you're watching there, Gwendolyn, and we'll give you some props.
It sounds like if it's Monterey County, Big Sur, that's California.
She might be, but that may be family.
It may be family.
That may be family for her. All right, Judah, let's go three shot. Three shot for us here, and let's jump in with some perspective that you have. I got to ask you this, and this is a straightforward question. Mm-hmm. Everyone that watches this program on Tuesday learns from you. Is this, and you often reference a black swan event. Mm-hmm. Are we fearful that this may be a black swan event? Hold that thought. Judah Wickhara's got something for you. Three shot. J-Dubs, jump in.
What do you got?
So there's actually more than just black. Everybody talks about black swan events, but really it's not. There's more to it than that. There's obviously white swan events, mm-hmm. Something that you could have totally predicted, mm-hmm. and gray swan events, which I think we're seeing a lot more of in all of what's been going on recently, which is, it's the kind of thing where, like a black swan event, you literally could not have predicted it was going to happen.
Exactly.
So pointing out that everything around you is possibly a black swan event pretty much negates the fact that it would be a black swan event, because you're looking at it and saying, I think this is going to happen. So if it does happen, you could have predicted it. In fact, you did predict it.
The Russia-Ukraine war was unanticipated. No one saw this coming.
There were signs beforehand.
And that's where we get to the gray swan event, mm-hmm. which is the type of event where, yes, you didn't see it coming, but looking back, there were clear clues that whatever it is that happened, had some indicators pointing to its, being right around the corner.
Okay, you're okay. I respect that statement here. You're arguing semantics, which I appreciate, but that is not topical here. I think the question I'm asking,
it is significant in one way. I would agree with you in this sense. The market had time we saw this in the weeks leading up to this. Didn't quite come out of nowhere. So you began to have market reactions even beforehand. So sometimes when that happens, you don't have the same kind of dislocations and terrible effects as a true black swan. A true black swan can cause major damage because people aren't already beginning to react or prepare for it. This isn't quite that, because there were signs for a month at least prior to the actual invasion that Russia was ramping up on the border of Ukraine. So
more to the point here is the Russia-Ukraine collateral damage. I hate to even freaking say this. I wasn't even going to say this.
Our word here?
Yeah, I wasn't even going to say this because we understand the following. Mm-hmm. And how much people count on all of us here for some perspective. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I'd be being true to myself, so that's why I got to ask it, because it's been on my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I don't know if it's been on your mind. I would think maybe it has been on your mind. Is the collateral damage of Russia, Ukraine, the onset of recession?
These things, it's too early to say that now. What concerns me is that.
Do you think about this?
It is. We do think about this because what typically what you fear with recession, right, is fragility followed by catalyst. In other words, you think back to the last one we had in 2008. Fragility, the housing market severely overextended, inventories high, right? Catalyst, housing crash, right? So you one thing then causes the trigger. So my concern here would be fragility, high inflation, consumers less in their pockets, low labor force participation.
Supply chain.
Supply chain issues. Catalyst, is this enough to tip it over the edge? It's too early to say right now because there's so many other signs that you would typically look for that are not currently there. We don't have an inverted yield curve. So far we had this hasn't translated into people really being down in long-term bonds, sitting there saying, typically the inverted yield curve means that short-term interest rates are higher than long-term because there's such a negative outlook long-term that short-term ends up being higher. I'm not sure we're quite seeing that yet. So there's other signs that you would look for, and it's tough to sit here and say, oh, gee, the economy was overheated. It might enter recession. I mean, I don't think anyone would look at 2020, 2021 and see overheated economy.
No.
The inflation we were seeing was not because there's just so much demand and people feel great.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't have those
labor and
typical
supply
things.
chain.
It's labor and supply chain. So tough to say right from here, I'm going to be honest. And this is part of the challenge you have with working in economics, working in the markets, right? You cannot easily predict the future. And I'm going to be honest, flat out honest and say I can't tell at this point that there's going to be recession or not.
What's on the brain over there, Judah? I see the wheels turning.
I mean, I agree. Everything. I think there are so many things that have been pointing to a recession or a pullback. I mean, look at the stock market. Look at the money printer just going nonstop at the Fed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like anybody could predict that something was going to happen. It's just a matter of putting dates on a dartboard and hoping that you hit the right date.
Let's talk Fed. You know how I feel about Powell. This guy is going to raise rates. What was he talking about? 25 points?
25 basis points.
Yeah, 25 bips at a time that a global economic sanctionary war is happening.
He's stuck, though. What can he do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand that he's stuck, but every time this guy gets on freaking CNBC and opens his mouth in any way, the market is freaking volatile as like the Dragon Fire at Busch Gardens, the roller coaster.
Yep. I
feel like I'm riding the roller coaster when this guy's on screen.
It does feel like the roller coaster.
I mean, does this dude do this now?
I'm beginning to doubt personally, and maybe Xavier, if he was watching, would I know he may be traveling at this moment, but if he was watching, he may disagree with me. I'm beginning to suspect that it may happen, the rate hikes, but I would not stun me at all. I'll put it this way: it would not shock me at all if March comes and goes and they don't end up actually doing it. If only for appearance's sake, which I think is unfortunately a lot of what's going on here, because I mean, the three of us at the table, so I don't think any of us seriously believes that 3 or 4 rate hikes in this year corresponding to a 1% increase in interest rates will tamp down 8+% inflation.
No way.
Particularly if that inflation is now exacerbated by literally not buying 8% of our oil supply and having to get it from elsewhere.
Exactly.
So you sit there and you're like, it would not stun me because what on earth would this do? Other than potentially put a quiver back in his pocket so that 6 months from now he can drop rates again, theoretically, but I'm not sure what that achieves. But I think the challenge that they're facing, obviously, is they did nothing for so long and they kept the free money spigot going for so long that they are feeling some kind of heat to appear to be doing something.
But when they were making and Gwendolyn's an economist, and she is in Holland. I'll get to her comment. And Kevin Yancey, this is a response to your comment. So multiple people, viewers and listeners, interacting with each other on different social media platforms while we're doing this program here.
Nice.
She says American oil drillers are not producing anywhere near what they were a couple of years ago due to the idea of capital discipline. Some of it is definitely due to this emphasis now on paying down debts and return on investment. But also we're seeing a real reluctance among investors to shell out more money for new drilling. Many institutional investors got burned over the last decade when the attitude in energy was all about growth before prices tanked. The industry tends to promise a capital discipline and slowly drift into irrational exuberance. So if the price stays up long enough, you will see the financial taps open.
I would expect, well, I mean, you would hope that. I mean, typically, high price is the signal for new people to enter the market. So you would hope that would be the case. And that's our hopeful one. Whether it's enough to make up for the other tailwinds is a different story. Different story.
So this is what I want to talk about. I want to get your take. We were talking about this earlier, Judah. I've talking with my wife today, and I think everyone sees the writing on the wall. $5 a gallon gas is a very real scenario. Maybe even March here in Charlottesville, now Morrow County. $5 plus, right?
I think it's a very real scenario at this point.
Yeah, Scottsville. We were seeing $4.25 gallon gas yesterday. In like a 2-day period of time, it went up 50 cents around these parts.
But if it was $4.25 yesterday and today we will no longer be buying Russian oil.
What's it going to be?
It's going to be higher.
Okay.
Because remember, it's not gas prices are going to go up at the pump in expectation, even though the gas already purchased is like the gas you're buying at the pump has already been purchased in the past, right? The expectation of higher prices will push those up.
Kevin Yancey makes this point, and I want to talk about this point, on price gouging. And he says, please touch on how these local gas stations can raise the price of gas that's already been delivered. How does the gas in your tanks cost you more? It's borderline price gouging. But Kevin, I'm empathetic to that because we're all feeling that pinch. But also I'm trying to see the other side for talk show purposes and also from a business standpoint. And also because I know the other side is locally owned businesses in this community as well. Locally owned. So their pricing is associated with supply and demand.
Exactly.
And it's associated with how quickly the gas they have in their position is running out in their possession. So they're raising the prices to accommodate that demand and also helping them purchase the next batch of gas that is at a higher cost of goods. Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're not reading it wrong. You have to remember, so price is determined not by cost, but by supply and demand. How much of the good do you have? How much do people want? Not the cost of what it costs for the business owner. You can think of it in anywhere else, right? If I run a store and I have bread, what determines what I charge for bread is the combination of the quantity of bread that I have and the demand for bread, not the cost that I as the business owner paid for the bread. In other words, the cost will determine my profit, but it will not determine the price at which I sell it. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. And he responds literally to what you just said, but they paid much lower prices for what's in the ground right now, Alex.
But again, it's not the cost. That what they paid for it is their cost of the gas. What's going to determine their price is current supply and current demand. That's what's going to determine the price that is set for the gas at the pump today, not what the person who runs the gas station paid for the gas. The cost doesn't determine the price here.
Judah Wickhauer, jump in here. Anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, I'm seeing the effect in my gas tank. Used to be I could put my $10 in and it would get me from like my car is telling me I've got 25 miles left and now I've got 140 to go. $10 now, it's not even getting me past like 93, 95. It's
yeah.
Alex Urpí, Neil Williamson. As usual, Alex is on the money. There's a cost to replace the product they are delivering the fuel to you. This is something I want to cover. Janice asked on one of the 15 Facebook pages this show is airing, does Yunkin offer a tax deduction or a tax rebate or try to offset the cost of gas with easing on taxes on gasoline in the short period of time? that's something we should talk about. I would not be surprised if Youngkin does that. It's a Republican in the governor's mansion who's already shown he's opposed to taxes. And a microcosm of that is the sales tax that was shot down by the General Assembly, a sales tax that could have had to the Charlottesville jurisdiction as a referendum to fund school reconfiguration, and it did not even get out of the General Assembly.
And he ran on even getting rid of the grocery tax.
He did.
Which technically got rid of Northam at the end of the previous administration, gutted it, but that was kind of in response to the fact that it was going to be gutted in January anyway. But Youngkin ran on getting rid of that. So if you're willing to get rid of the grocery tax, it wouldn't shock me if your next step is how do I ease the increasing price with lowering taxes somewhere else. That would be a move in line with what we've seen this administration's priorities be.
Yeah, I agree. This from Kevin: gas isn't a moneymaker for any gas station. I've dealt with numerous mom and pops and multi-station operations. They profit pennies on the gallon. There's some truth to that. There's undoubtedly truth to that. Neil Williamson on the comment section of my Facebook page shares an article from USA Today on why gas prices are rising. Dude, the feed is absolutely in fuego right now. So let's talk about this. Gas prices are undoubtedly going to get out of control. I was having this conversation with an upper level executive in a brewery, and I'm not going to say which one. Okay, but an established name recognition brewery, upper level executive. He said not only is the gas going to be an impactor of this in this community, but he said Russia and Ukraine, wheat, one of the biggest wheat producers in the whole freaking world, Russia and Ukraine. And he says that he was already told by their food providers that you can expect food costs to jump at least 30% in the very near future. So a sandwich that is $15, get ready for it to cost 20. And speaking of beer, you utilize wheat for beer. And if the cost of goods for wheat associated with the Ukrainian and Russian supply chain is impacted, he says get ready to seeing beer go to levels we've never seen before. Anywhere you want to go on these topics.
Wheat, and keep in mind, fertilizer. Even though the United States is the third largest producer, I think worldwide, of fertilizer, I believe the Russians are number one in terms of a nitrogen-based fertilizer, which is used around the world to grow.
He is exactly right, and that's one of the reasons why Venezuela would not distance itself from Russia and impose economic sanctions, because it needs the fertilizer.
No, some places simply can't afford. Like, as an example, Nigeria in Africa, the African nations will literally starve if they cannot get access to the fertilizer that they need. So there are some nations that simply cannot respond, right? And that's not shocking. And then, of course, there are ones like the U.S. that, even though we can respond, the price to us to do so is going to be massive. I mean, plus don't forget, you have a triple anomaly there, but a triple headwind there, because you're going to have wheat prices by themselves go up because you have two wheat producers at war. You're going to have the cost of agricultural goods that rely on fertilizer going up because you just took the number one country doing it and you're presumably not buying from them. And most commodities historically are correlated with the price of oil, e.g. when oil goes up, other commodities, regardless of the fact that you don't need oil to produce wheat, but when oil goes up, wheat goes up. It's just one of the movements of commodities. Could be also because they're transported. A lot of commodities have to be transported on ships which run on oil. So there's also that kind of correlation there. So it's a trifecta, we might call it, that would push up agricultural and other commodity prices as well.
So I'll give you this statistic here. Alex Urpy's dropping knowledge right here, guys. Colombia, Chile, or excuse me. Expressions of solidarity. This from the Wall Street Journal. Expressions of solidarity with Putin from Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela.
I mean, that's not shocking.
Not shocking.
Cuba and Venezuela is not particularly shocking.
69% of Venezuela fertilizer from Russia. 69%. So
Venezuela is in OPEC, is in the, not OPEC itself, but in the larger one. I forget what it's called. It's got BRICS or something with Russia as well.
So I'll throw this to you here. We literally got a guy that does the menu pricing from a brewery that's established. saying get ready for the menu prices to go up 30%. And get ready for the beer prices to go up higher because we need wheat to brew beer. And Ukraine and Russia produce this.
Russia and Ukraine supply a quarter of the world's wheat.
Okay, say that out loud for everybody.
Russia and Ukraine supply a quarter of the world's wheat.
25% of the world's wheat are from Russia and Ukraine. So Main Street, proverbial, not actual Main Street, but local mom and pops are saying, you thought menu prices are already high right now.
Just wait.
We're going to raise them another 30% because we have to, and it's not because of profit margin, but it's because of necessity. You got inflation over 8%. You got the real estate sector, 25 million rooftops nationally under inventory because of government regulation associated with new construction. We learned on this morning's show, the median sales price for a home in America is now eclipsing $400,000. You got a massive collection of millennials entering the market trying to buy houses, and they're not there. You got the Federal Reserve considering a couple of rate hikes. You got indices that are in correction territory, all of them.
All of them. I mean, they're up today, but year
For the year.
Year to date, they're down.
Year to date, correction territory. I mean, I'm so trying not to do doom and gloom here. I'm the optimist, good God. We need the economy to recover, and it hasn't recovered post-pandemic. We need Main Street to be well. We need the whole businesses we're running here are tied to Main Street doing well and having disposable income. I'm not trying to do doom and gloom here, but dude, I just outlined a number of scenarios here that are all colliding at the exact same time.
Yeah, they know they are. I mean, there is no way to sugarcoat what we're seeing. I mean, it's not shocking. I mean, you have a full-on war in Eastern Europe involving one of the major powers of the world, which sits on the United Nations Security Council and has nuclear weapons. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that and say, well, that won't have any effect on our economy. There is no way that was going to happen. And you combine it with the fragility that we already had in the economy, which I think is a factor of why this war is even happening now. These aren't shocking things. So I don't think it's necessary to sugarcoat it because people need to know, and our audience is savvy. They're going to see this at the pump. They're going to see this in the grocery stores. They're going to see this when they go out to eat. So people just need to be aware and say, yes, this is happening. You're going to see it. You're probably already seeing it. They're probably, hey, Neil Williamson's telling us the 425. I didn't even see 425. I saw 399 last I saw. So they're already seeing it, and it's not stunning that it's going to happen, and it's going to have an effect both on the market in Wall Street and on the marketplace on Main Street level. And these kind of conflagrations have major effects.
Kevin Higgins, the king of Greenwood. The cost of wheat is the highest it's been since 2008. I will mention this live on air, period, enter.
He's right. Oil as well, I believe.
Kevin Yancey, not to mention sunflower oil and seeds. Ukraine produces 80 to 90% of the world's production, sunflower oil and seeds. 80 to 90%. So you see why Ukraine is so critical to global production and control.
Absolutely.
I mean, you see it. Your brother, Nicholas Urpí, businesses will also have to buy gas at a higher clip, and selling it for more allows them to buy more. Neil covered my comment. Love Neil Williamson. He said it much better than I could. Janice says, Boyce Trevelyan, that's why these gas stations sell food and drinks. That's where they make their money, not on the gas. She adds, there's a mill in Rosedale that Bell in Belmont has referenced that is milling from Virginia and North Carolina. Deep Roots Milling. That's where I'm going to buy from. She's saying buy domestic. Dude, why? Gwendolyn, the economist. Let's get to her comments. Is it a Harvard economics degree, Gwendolyn? I think it's Harvard for her. What about airlines who purchase their fuel in futures? It will be interesting to see when the oil embargo severely impacts our deflated airline industry.
Oh, yes.
I also think that our reliance on fossil fuels will be displayed in placing a higher demand on renewables. The global production of nitrogen fertilizer amounted to some 117 million metric tons in 2018. China was by far the country with the largest production, with an output of nearly 30 million metric tons.
China's number one. Okay.
It was followed by the United States and India with 13.6 and 13.3 metric tons. She says UVA economics degree, Harvard master's GDP right now. And she said, also while working for the royal family of Saudi, I quickly learned how their council of elders, for lack of better term, is most concerned about how the royal family is out of oil reserves and cash in less than 2 generations. They are investing more in solar infrastructure than any sector. Saudi Arabia has one of the highest solar irradiation in the world, estimated at approximately 2,200 thermal kilowatts an hour of solar radiation per square meter. Okay, so she's saying stuff that she's so smart, I have no idea what she's saying right here, okay? Going like Gail Cassidy, you're so intelligent right here.
I did, to translate it, what
Please.
she's saying is biggest nitrogen fertilizer producers apparently China, US, and India, which I thought Russia was in that list somewhere, but it could be a different type of fertilizer. And the second thing is, from what I'm understanding, the point she's making is this may push some people, as the Saudis are already doing, to begin to think about renewables more seriously, because you have such this, you don't want to be reliant on something that, in the case of Russia, is being provided by someone you don't trust.
So is that why we're seeing Tesla and solar stocks up?
Oh, probably. I mean, anytime. So renewable stocks tend to go in the inverse of oil. In other words, when oil prices are really high, there's a renewed interest in renewables. When oil prices are really low.
She says Russia is fourth, Alex.
Russia's fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
So top 5.
She says Harvard isn't completed yet, but it will be a global development practice degree.
Global development practice.
UVA economics and then a Harvard global development practice degree. Watching the program in Holland, making the show better.
Absolutely, making us smarter.
Yeah, Gwendolyn, you're a rock star. We have the 145 in 2 minutes and change with our traditional Tuesday 145. All right, dude, be the voice of reason then. I mean, I am an optimist. I'm an entrepreneur. The voice of reason for everybody that is watching here on macro, micro, volatility, and be our North Star, please.
2 things. One, I'd say the price of globalism, right? And we've discussed this before, that because we don't necessarily trust everyone, it's important to have certain things produced in the United States, right? Because we saw this with medical supplies with China in the middle of the pandemic, and then we're seeing it with other areas now, particularly with energy. I think the Germans are probably wishing they didn't close 3 nuclear plants last year, because they're buying even more from Russia than they were beforehand. Second one, on a slightly more optimistic point, right? Obviously, the flip side of this war causing so many problems economically is that you remove the war, some of these headwinds go away. In other words, these aren't headwinds that we can't trace the origin of, and we don't know if they'll go away. So to the extent to which a peaceful resolution can be reached here somehow, right? You could see some of these pressures go away. And I mean, I know that's not a super optimistic picture, because we're not even close to seeing a peaceful resolution yet.
So the optimist approach is we hope to God psychopathic, warmongering madman finds reasonable thinking.
That's the kind of hope. Or that whatever he's after,
that's what we're saying,
achieves or feels he can't achieve it.
Or he feels he can't achieve it, yeah. What is the worst part, and obviously we have perspective here, and I'm saying this with as much empathy as possible, is the worst aspect of this war, it may not even be deaths. And I know that's tough to say, because it's not our country that has its citizens dying, and I'm super empathetic of that. And I can't even imagine, nor can I relate, what Ukraine is going through. But these economic sanctions could have lasting
Well, and they're not two different things. I mean, like I said, if food prices and these fertilizers and this wheat continues to climb, you could be looking at deaths in places that severely will. I mean, you could be talking about
Hunger deaths.
deaths in
We've had
numerous countries.
Starvation deaths.
So yeah,
we've had-
economics isn't like different from life and death. It can be life and death economics.
We've had 2 years of pestilence. Now we've got war. Soon could be famine.
That's a biblical reference there?
3 of the 4 horsemen of the
Horseman and
apocalypse.
feast-dated horseman of the apocalypse there.
Alex Urpí, CEO of Emergent Financial Services, in about 15 seconds, today y mañana, if you could
Today,
for us.
mañana, we'll go back. We'll be we'll be still celebrating small business and encouraging people to continue to just support your neighbors. It's the most important thing. You got to support your local communities. We're going to have on Nikki from the Milt House Spa at the Inn at Willow Grove,
Very nice.
as well as Courtney Tatation. She's the executive director of the Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau. So a little bit of small business, a little bit of coming, visiting here, and just making sure we support. All we can do is support each other, right? We can't control Putin, we can't control Russia, we can't control, so many things in this world are beyond our control, but supporting our local community is within our control.
Well said. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Gwendolyn closes with this. Putin can strip people of their lives, but he can't steal their faith. If there's one thing war does, is bring people together with their faith, no matter what one's faith is. Amen.
Amen to that.
Amen. And Yancey says, I seriously think the oligarchy of Russian is going to kill Putin. Ukraine just had a child die of dehydration. First since the end of World War II.
Terrible.
Alex, Judah, Jerry, the I Love CVille Show. Judah, you hit turn off those mics, and I'm calling our client literally right now. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Good job.
Thanks, Jerry.